Right, so the question was about how I was able to gain access to some of the people affected by it, including the Awlaki family and then high-level government officials. One interesting thing, just by sort of full disclosure, if you read some books on this subject, they're, and Bob Woodward is the master at this, they're sort of based on official leaks, that occur from the administration and from the highest levels of power in the United States. And I mean, I read those books because it's fascinating. I never get to talk to those people, so. But a lot of those sources that I have in my book, some of whom I've given alternative identities, are guys much lower down the food chain. They're the guys that are doing the operations, or helping to plan the operations, or in the control center when the operations are going on. And so it's a very different window into how this works. A lot of times the guys lower down the chain know a lot more about the operations than the people sitting at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in the Situation Room. So I more roll around with the ordinary folks in this, and those are my sources. I don't claim to have high-level sources. As far as like getting to know the Awlakis or others, a lot of times it just requires sort of going there. But you have to be careful and culturally sensitive. Like when we were going to film, because we were doing a film at the same time, and we were going to film in this village of Gardez in Paktia province in Afghanistan, we sent an Afghan colleague with a letter for that family, stating our intent, explaining who we were, and saying that they were free to Google us on the internet to verify that we are who we say we are. And then we also asked for permission from local religious leaders to enter the area, because we didn't want them to think that we were more Americans coming to kill people in their family. And sometimes people do think I'm a spy or think I'm in the military, even if I have journalist credentials. Somali warlord told me that he's convinced. He still believes I'm CIA, even though I told him, I'm like, dude, the book is out. I am not CIA. He still insists that I'm CIA. With the Awlaki family, it took quite a bit of work. It's not just, Nasser Awlaki has been interviewed a number of times in big media outlets. What was unusual is that the family gave me access to the female members of the family also. I'm the only journalist that has sat with Anwar Awlaki's mother and sister and the nieces and nephews and all of the Awlaki siblings. And part of it was that they had read my book on Blackwater in Arabic when it was published, and they knew who I was. And they had seen me on television before Anwar was killed, but after he was put on the kill list, I was on MSNBC and other networks condemning it and saying that we're crossing a dangerous line. This was almost 2 full years before Awlaki was killed. So they already knew who I was. And the first time that I met them, it was a bit of a stiff interaction, but the more I went back, they welcomed me into their home. And then eventually I was there during Ramadan, and I kept the fast with them during Ramadan, which was very difficult, because no water or food during the day. And every single night that we were there, they would invite us then for dinner. And we also had Rick Rowley, the director of our film, he and I developed a human relationship with some of the children in the family and some of the siblings that has nothing to do with this story. Anwar Awlaki's brother Omar is a beekeeper, an organic beekeeper. He makes some of the most expensive honey in Yemen. So it's getting to know people on a personal level and also being culturally sensitive. And I always say to people that I want this story to be told in a place where it really matters, and that is in the United States. And I try to be an honest broker when I deal with people. I do the same thing when I talk to folks in the U.S. military, that you may disagree with my politics, but I promise that I'm going to quote you correctly, and I'm going to document meticulously what you said and check the facts with you. And that's what I just got an email from a friend who's a former Army Ranger, and he just was paging through my book at Barnes & Noble, and he just sent me a text message and said it's nice to be quoted accurately. And I take some level of pride in that. Yes, sir.
Could you just briefly explain the law that you referred to about whereby American citizens can be held indefinitely?
Oh, yeah. He was asking about the law about how Americans can be held indefinitely without charge. It's the National Defense Authorization Act, which is an annual. It's passed annually, and there are provisions that are in it that are being challenged in court right now by a number of journalists, Chris Hedges among them, because there is language in there that indicates that the government is asserting the right to hold Americans